Dude, so how are things?
Things are going well. Yeah.
I feel
Busy.
like I feel like I got to say this right now because the viewers might say it. We look like we could be brothers with like the hair and the beard.
Yes, I could totally see that for sure.
So, Laurence Boswell, right? That's your photography name.
Yeah, Boswell photography. Yep.
Do you do photography full time? Is it like your main job?
Yep.
How long have you been doing it for?
I've been doing it full time just over a year and a
Nice.
few months. Yeah.
What were you doing before that?
Um, I kind of, well, I was honestly working at Costco.
Nice.
Before that, I was working as a city planner. So it's kind of a weird like scenario, but
How did you get into photography? Like, what made you want to?
well, I've been doing photography for like 8 years on the side just as a hobby
Uh-huh.
and did some side work, like engagements and portraits. But I mostly did it for myself. Like I just really enjoyed photography. And then last year during the pandemic, I was like, I'm done working for Costco or other people and I'm just going to do my own thing.
Was it difficult to like get into it? Were you like starting kind of like doing stuff on the side and then you decide one day like, okay, I've got enough clients and all that stuff that I can get into it?
I wish. No. I
No?
literally had one client when I quit my job. So I had one job to do. And then I was like, I need to network and get my name out there. And so the first 3 months were a lot of networking, a lot of social media, a lot of practicing my skill, figuring out kind of what I wanted to do with my business and what my niche was. So yeah, it took me a little while to be where I'm at. But I quit like my other job. I didn't have any like stable clientele or anything at that point. I was literally just like, here I am in Utah and this is who I am and this is what I can do.
Have you always lived in Utah?
No, I moved here like 6 years ago.
I've been around the Utah scene for a while and then I kind of just saw you just kind of hop on
That's
and
kind of what
like,
happened, honestly. Yeah.
yeah, which was kind of cool because like you'd see your work just start to progress.
Uh huh.
Uh, to be honest, like when I first saw your stuff, I was like, he's kind of one of the, just in my eye, like kind of a generic photographer.
Mm-hmm.
But then I don't know, your lighting game and like your style and everything just kind of started like creating its own. So like when you look at one of your images, you can be like, oh, that's one of Lawrence's, which I think is freaking awesome.
Yeah, it was interesting because I have a very distinct style that I had done a lot of like more artsy work with that's not on this page that you're viewing right now.
Mm-hmm.
So when I decided to run my business, it was like, well, how do I used to do a lot of like a kind of like self-portrait work and like a lot of artsy stuff, I would say, with photography. So I was like, how do I incorporate that into a business? And like, what clientele can I have? And like, how can I incorporate my skill set into that? So that's probably what you're seeing is at first I was trying to figure out like, I don't usually do headshots.
Mm-hmm.
I do more artsy Photoshop compositing work. And so, like, how do I do headshots and how does that look good? And how do I add my style to that? So then I think over time, that's kind of what I've learned and mastered. And now you can see it in my work a lot more. Like, I have a very distinct style.
I like how you kind of have, you've, instead of making the headshots kind of generic, they're, you've got like your own, I don't know, kind of your own pop to it. Like it
Mm-hmm.
looks good. You know what I mean?
Thanks. Yeah.
That guy looks like a young John Krasinski.
Yeah.
So, you started doing like or Photoshop work more so.
Like, I've done more Photoshop work before I started my business, if that makes sense. I got really into it. If you scroll like way down, you can see some of my stuff, but it's like a totally separate Instagram that I have for that.
Was this one was some Photoshop work, I'm guessing, but mostly lit,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah, some dodging, burning, adding the light on the, flashlight. Yeah, if you go like way down, I'll show you a good example of.
Oh,
Um,
that's a cool shot, by the way.
Thank you. Yeah, if you go down, like, so that Star Wars one, going up. That one's Photoshop. I don't love that one, but the one above that one with the blue and red, that's very, very Photoshopped.
So, is this one like what's the setting
Um,
without it?
we shot this like literally in the dark at Antelope Island. We were outside, and I
Oh,
used a couple of speed lights, and then I basically like there wasn't really a background because it was pitch black, so I added the kind of sparks or whatever to the background, and then I went in and painted literally the color blue and red into the shadows and highlights.
oh, that's cool.
Kind of morphed it, yeah.
So when you do that, do you do like a? Are you painting on like an overlay layer or like a multiply layer, or do you know? Do you remember?
With that one, I don't remember, but I'm pretty sure there was a couple different layers going on. So there's like a color balance layer. There's, I would say, just a normal layer, and then I painted red, and then probably changed that layer to something like soft light or something, or hard light. You know, one of those filters that you can put on just a regular layer.
Uh huh.
But I can't remember exactly because it's been a while. It's been over a year.
Did
Um,
you? And you did the lightsabers, right?
yeah, so I created the lightsabers as well.
Did
Um,
you? So I'm always trying to create like neon tubes in Photoshop, and
okay,
like I feel like it's very difficult because so yours looks really cool with the you've got like the edges that look really, I mean, quote unquote realistic.
sure.
Did you download stuff or did you like create a brush and then like Gaussian blur the edges or the whole like?
Yeah, so what I did was I created several different layers. I used the pen tool to create a sharp line
Mm-hmm.
coming from the lightsaber, and then I just like did that shape but a little bit bigger and then a little bit bigger, and then I blurred each layer so they're like
Ah,
multiple layers on top of each other, blurred and blended
uh-huh.
together to get that effect.
That's what I do, but I feel like yours looks better than mine.
Okay, thanks.
So most all this stuff is commercial work.
So those were honestly just like this photo. These first photos are just trade work. I was just
Okay.
trying to build up a portfolio. So I was trying to figure out like how can I advertise as a commercial photographer? What should I photograph? So I took a few of these photos like in a gym, a local gym with a model.
So this one, can I
Mm-hmm.
ask your lighting setup on this one?
Yeah, this one I literally had just two umbrellas. So I had a white shoot through umbrella in the front, and then a white shoot through umbrella in the back.
So you have the guy standing here.
Mm-hmm.
Here's his little weight rack, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you have just is it a shoot through or is it a reflective umbrella?
Shoot through. So
Okay, so
you want to draw it the other way.
so you have your umbrella like this.
Mm-hmm.
So what kind of lighting are you using?
Just the speed light.
Like a Godox or something?
Yeah, it's not Godoc's brand, but I can never pronounce it. It's
Is
with
it?
the
Oh,
YNOUGNO or something like.
I think it's Young Nuo or whatever.
Yeah, whatever that brand is called.
Dude, so you have that one on one side and then you have another, do you have
I
another
think
speed
I
light on
had
the other?
another shoot through on the other side, or I just literally had the speed light just set up on a stand, and it
Oh,
just
something like that.
yeah.
And it's all shooting that way. Man, that's freaking awesome. But you have another light somewhere in the back right here, right? Is that just
No,
the
that's
overhead
just the
lights?
lights from the gym. Mhm.
Okay.
So I calibrated like my ISO and like ISO and aperture and stuff to pick up on those lights behind him as well as my lights that were shooting at him.
Did you have to do a lot of like retouching out of random things? Because like when I look at this, it looks really pro.
Okay.
It looks like everything looks smooth, everything looks sharp. Like things that are supposed to be
Mm-hmm.
sharp look sharp. Like the grass, you can see detail on it.
Mm-hmm.
But you don't have a lot of like clutter around. In my images, like I'll try and go and like Photoshop anything on the walls or
Yeah.
just make. So did you have to do a lot of that for this image or no?
Yeah, I think I ended up photoshopping one of my stands out a little bit. Because I think it was showing in the window behind him. And then I photoshopped little things like on the wall, and then I actually painted the wall gray because it had some weird colors on it. So I just went in and painted the whole wall gray.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I love seeing all these like little because when you look at a photo like this, I mean, most people don't really realize some of the stuff that goes into it. You know what I mean? Like just to paint the
Oh,
wall gray to make it
like,
a
yeah, look
cohesive.
better. Yeah.
Yeah. So, what's your lighting setup on this one?
All natural light. I had a huge white like diffuser. So on to the right hand side. So that's what's diffusing the sunlight.
Mm-hmm.
And then I had an ND filter on my camera and just shot at a low aperture.
So you just had like one of those foldable 5-in-1 foldable kind of thingies.
Actually, it was a lot bigger than that. So I was working with a videographer, and he brought like literally a like
Okay, so
six
like a
feet by 6 foot like diffuser,
big old grim.
huge like square that someone was holding, and it had just a thin sheet, like white sheet on it.
That's what I was wondering because you can see just on the ground on the sand like a little hard line. So I was like, he's got to have like a 8x8 or something or some sort of like 5-in-1. But
Mm-hmm.
this one is awesome because like I feel like in a lot of scenarios people would just blow out the background.
I hate when people blow out backgrounds.
Yeah.
Yes, it's my biggest pet peeve, man.
And the fact that you said you had an ND filter, which to be honest, I have recently started getting into,
Okay.
and they help a ton just for like controlling the light a lot better.
Oh yeah, they're my favorite now.
I mean, I don't want to like rip on people, but a lot of like the momtographers will go and do like in a woodsy area, but like the sky is just like totally white or
Totally
kind of a
blown out.
mushy gray. And I'm like, there might have been clouds and like blue sky that day, but who knows?
I know I don't want to like bash on them, but it always bugs me because people usually just put a filter or they bring down all their highlights. So then the sky is just really muted white, like this muted grayish white, but
Yeah.
there's no texture in it.
Yeah.
I always strive to get the sky. If the sky's blown out, I will not post a picture, honestly. Like, unless if it's like purposely supposed to be blown out for some artistic reason.
Uh
But
huh.
like, that's one thing that I really like try not to do. So,
Which I was going to ask, because there's another picture. Where is it? This one.
okay, that one's blown out. I cannot do, I couldn't do anything about it.
No, but that's so. It seems like it wouldn't be blown out because, like, you have your blacks are really rich and they're really dark. Because
Uh-huh.
I shot in one of my friend's studios who has a similar look like this, and she has windows behind. And
Mm-hmm.
every time I would like darken down to get the inside moody and get those blacks really rich, I would be darkening down the outside enough that I could see other buildings or lampposts and stuff.
Oh, okay.
So, were you doing anything special on this one, or was there just nothing outside the window to be shown?
There wasn't really anything special to be shown out of the window. It was barely picking up. I would say the sky.
Uh huh.
Um, but this one was shot all with natural light, and I just had an ND filter, so I was like really shallow aperture, and then I just like couldn't expose the sky correctly without like super underexposing the subject. So when I brought him back up in Photoshop, the window naturally kind of got overexposed.
Mm-hmm.
But I tried to actually like fix it or Photoshop a sky into it, but it just wasn't looking good. And I
Yeah,
thought, well, it's fine for this particular image because it kind of highlights him a little bit and gives that hard edge on his shoulder.
that's what I'd say. Like, this is one of those times where I think the blown out background works. Because
Mm-hmm.
otherwise, I mean, I think a blue sky and clouds might be a little funky.
Yeah, it doesn't get the right vibe to the image almost.
Yeah, and it also might sort of distract from the subject because then you'd be kind of looking. I don't know, maybe, but yeah, like I think in this situation it works
Yeah.
perfectly. So this one,
Mm-hmm.
do you have just a grid? Is there two lights with a grid on it, or how's this light set up?
No, actually, it's just a big square softbox, and it was actually placed in front of that motorcycle.
But what do you have showing in the mirror here? Is that another light?
So we were in a parking garage, so you could see the second level. There was sunlight coming through it, so
Uh-huh.
it was backlighting him. That's why he has like a nice bright light like on the side of his cheek. And then
Okay.
I just lit him from the front.
And what kind of gear are you using to light him here? using?
Oh, I might have used a second light, actually, now that I think about it. I might have had that second light behind him too. Sorry if I had
No,
misinterpreted that.
you're good.
So front light and then probably a second light shooting from the back just to help with that.
Yeah.
Gear wise though, I shoot with a Canon 6D. I primarily use my 50 millimeter prime lens. It's like my favorite. And then for headshots, I use a 24 to 105.
Do you have a 50 millimeter 1.48, 1.2?
1.8.
And then the 20, what was the other one?
24 to 105.
That's the F4, right?
That's the F4, yeah.
It's not like the proest gear, although like it's really good gear, but it just shows you like you don't need pro gear to, number one, actually like put yourself in business
Mm-hmm.
and do great work.
Yeah, that's one thing I like to tell photographers or other individuals is like it's not, some of it is the gear, but honestly, most of it's lighting. If you can light your subject properly, you can shoot on any DSLR and get a pretty decent shot.
So that makes you curious. Like, did you go to school for this? Where did you learn how to do photography and your lighting and stuff?
It was mostly all self-taught. I bought my first camera in college, even though I wasn't going to college for photography.
Mm-hmm.
And I just practiced like the hell out of it. And I would take all my friends and I'd be like, hey, I want to practice this lighting situation. Like, can you come over? So I got really good with natural light. And then I had a roommate that knew some studio lights. And he suggested I get a basic setup with a speed light and a shoot through umbrella. And then I shot with that for a few years and I got really, really good at it. Until honestly this year when I've invested in bigger, better modifiers.
So what do you have now?
I have a few soft boxes, like a square one, and then I have an octobox, and then I have a really big octobox, and a grid on that one.
Do you like to just mess around with like big soft lights and like, I want to say non-directionality, or do you like directional sources and like seeing like a hard shadow? Is that making sense?
Yeah, I feel like my style tends to cater more towards the harsh lighting, like kind of more harsh shadows. Because I really like when people, you can actually see their facial features and their faces aren't flat. I think that's another thing you've probably realized with photographers who put a filter on their photos. A lot of
Ugh.
times skin and like faces get flattened when you remove highlights and when you lift your shadows and everyone just looks flat. Like
Yeah.
it's not really fun to see, I would say.
That's where I think like even this one of you, like you've got a nice side light and then an
Mm-hmm.
edge light so you can see like the dimensions of your face.
Mm-hmm.
And same with this one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so this one, how did you light this one?
I had a square softbox
Mhm.
above her, and then I usually have another softbox behind her to kind of give her a little bit of a hair light. You
Mhm.
can't really see it too much here, but it does make a difference.
A little bit
And
on the shoulder.
then yeah, and then I usually just have a white board underneath her that just reflects the light back up into her chin and softens the light under her neck. Softens the shadows, I should say.
And so you learned all this just practicing with friends? Did you go to group shoots? Did you watch YouTube videos?
Yeah, I mostly practice it like on myself. So I have another Instagram that's all personal portraits of me and like I would do a storytelling through that. So I did a lot of Photoshop compositing, but then I also played with lights a lot. And then I kind of grew a community of other artists slash photographers that were in a similar field and became friends with them. And then I would ask them for opinions or feedback. Or I even have some that I've met in person where they've given me like, hey, this is what you should do to do this or whatever. So
That's awesome.
yeah.
Wait, so what's your other Instagram that's I mean, how many Instagrams do you have?
Too many, honestly. I mean, I have probably like the other one is just kind of stagnant right now because I just don't have time for self portrait work.
Uh-huh.
I want to get back into it, but I have that one, my male boudoir, and then my main photography one.
What's the one you said has more Photoshop? Is that your?
It's called Only Human Photography.
Can we show that one?
Yeah, you can show it. The first few images, though, I don't love, just so you know. So you can like scroll down a little bit and you can see like a really good variety of it. Yeah, most of these are like one light setup, maybe two.
And they're just like a nice big softbox or an umbrella, right?
Yeah, just an umbrella, honestly. Just a shoot through white umbrella. So it's nothing special.
Dude, but that's I found, or at least I've kind of learned looking through other people's like Instagrams and stuff. I found that like soft lighting is really forgiving and really good for compositing
Hmm.
because then you can then shape the light a little bit better in Photoshop. Actually, this hold on, this one.
I was curious, yeah, which ones drew your attention?
This one does because well, so did you have like an idea in mind when you shot this, or did you kind of just like do the pose and then come back to Photoshop and figure things out?
Yeah, I think this one was part of. So I did a lot of like mini series. So this was like part of that mini series, and so I had the idea in mind.
Okay.
But then I took. It's always interesting because I always got like the pose in mind, but then later in Photoshop is where I figured out like what I want to actually composite into it.
Uh huh.
So like with that last one, like I had happened to take a picture of that rock. If you go back one
Oh,
more,
this one.
that one, that rock. Yeah, I happened to take a picture of that rock like on some random adventure with a friend.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, oh, I think I could use it. And so I ended up using it and then photoshopping a different like sky into the background.
That's cool.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the ones like that one draws my eye. I think the ones that draw my eye are ones that have like a light source in the center of the picture. Because that's kind of what I've been doing, trying to do, or I like doing when I can, is having in cinema they call them practicals, and I always used to just call it a light pointing at the camera lens, um, because that I don't know, it gives a cool edge light. It can give you like what's it called? Like the beams of light. Sometimes you can actually make it. You can either Photoshop it or use atmosphere or something.
Mm-hmm.
But it
Yeah.
just kind of like, yeah, like this one here. It just like you just see this bright light source that just draws your eye in, and so I like those type of images. Cool, dude. Well, do you have like a website or
Yeah, my website's just boswellphotography.us.
cool,
So same as my Instagram handle.
nice.
Mhm.
Go check him out. He's in Utah. If you need a Utah photographer for any reason, check him out.